Mystic Defender, something of a lost gem of the pre-Sonic Genesis era. This is a really solid Castlevania clone that most folks don't seem to talk about nowadays. Along with Last Battle, it also represents an early anime-inspired Mega Drive game that came to North America without its license and with content altered in order to make it more appropriate for American audiences. More on that later, though. It's also worth noting that, like Last Battle, a previous game in this series was released on the Master System. And, like Last Battle, Mystic Defender's precursor came to the US under a completely different name as well, Spellcaster. I'm not sure why Sega didn't care about continuity when it released these sequels on the Genesis in the US, except to say that it could have something to do with the fact that Tonka was originally in charge of marketing and distribution of the Master System in North America. Mystic Defender started life as Kujaku-ou 2, a game based on a serialized manga following the exploits of a young monk on a spiritual quest to stop Rikidoshu, which is an evil organization set on resurrecting the Peacock King and Snake Queen so that they may fight each other in order to give birth to the dark Vairakana. I don't pretend to know what most of that means, but it's all very religious. There are elements of Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Taoism, and more here. The American release, on the other hand, follows sorcerer Joe Yamato as he attempts to save a young girl, Alexandra, from the evil sorcerer Zareth, who is trying to revive an ancient evil god named Zal. The key to playing Mystic Defender is proper use of Joe's magic. As you move through the game, Joe gains more abilities, and it's up to you to use them in the most effective way against the waves of enemies that stand between you and Alexandra. This affords the player a level of freedom you usually didn't see in action games back in the late 80s. Though it has to be said that Joe's starting spell is ultimately his most effective. Getting back to those changes for a second. When Kujaku-ou's story got changed in North America, it also resulted in a few graphical updates. First of all, Joe's outfit went from a set of robes to a more masculine ensemble. Likewise, some of the enemies received palette swaps to make them seem less human, particularly the exploding babies on the second level. Here's the weird part, though. After fighting the final boss and rescuing Alexandra, you'll notice that she's completely naked. I don't know if this was an oversight on Sega's part, or someone actually thought it would be acceptable in the US. Needless to say, parents complained. And remember, this is before the existence of anything like the ESRB rating system. So Sega quietly released a second revision of the game in the US that featured a slightly more modest Alexandra during the final battle. All that strangeness aside, Mystic Defender is a really solid early example of Sega's willingness to release interesting, original content on the Mega Drive. It marked a shift away from their early focus on simply porting their arcade titles.
Your secrets, if you really look at yourself, you would be speechless. What happened to being doctors and teachers? What happened to being your brother's keeper? Nowadays kids more worried